Inside every Sigma male, there's a quiet battlefield, one side ruled by logic, the other by emotion. It's not a war fought with anger, but with awareness. Logic tells him to detach, analyze, and stay in control. Emotion whispers that to feel deeply isn't weakness, it's humanity. But when you've been betrayed, misunderstood, or used for your calmness, even emotions start to feel dangerous. This is the hidden war that shapes the Sigma's identity. A constant balancing act between intellect and instinct, power and vulnerability. To the world, he looks composed, unreadable, and unshaken. But inside, every choice he makes passes through two filters: what's smart and what's right for my peace. This is not a story about coldness, it's about evolution. Because when a Sigma learns to merge logic with emotion instead of fighting it, he becomes unstoppable. Not because he feels less, but because he feels intelligently. If you've ever had to silence your heart to survive, only to realize you lost a part of yourself in the process, this video is for you. Subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology, solitude, and power of the Sigma mind. And tell me in the comments, do you lead more with logic or emotion? And has it ever cost you something real? Learns to trust logic after emotion betrayed him. Every Sigma male has a moment when emotion betrays him. A moment so sharp it rewires how he sees the world. Maybe it was trusting someone who swore they'd never lie, or believing that loyalty meant permanence. But when that trust shattered, something inside him broke too. From that day forward, he stopped leading with his heart. He began to observe life like a strategist, not a believer. Where emotion once rushed in with blind hope, logic stepped in like a quiet guardian, calculating, patient, and unshakable. He didn't stop feeling, he simply stopped trusting his feelings. He learned that love can disguise manipulation, that kindness can be currency, and that words can mean nothing without consistency. So he built a system in his mind, a way to process pain without letting it destroy him. He started measuring intentions, not promises, watching actions, not apologies. He realized that logic doesn't numb emotion, it gives it structure, a way to protect what's real from what's temporary. Over time, this shift made him appear colder, but in truth, it made him wiser. He understood that emotion without boundaries leads to chaos, that empathy without discernment becomes a weakness. And so, every choice he makes now runs through an invisible filter, one that asks, does this align with my peace, or does it threaten it? People often mistake his calm for indifference, but it's not. It's a man who has felt too much, lost too deeply, and learned that control is not cruelty, it's survival. The Sigma doesn't avoid emotion, he masters it. He channels it into purpose, into discipline, into silent strength. Because once logic takes the throne, the heart doesn't disappear. It simply learns to serve something higher, clarity. That's the hidden transformation few ever notice, the moment when a Sigma male stops being led by emotion and starts being guided by reason. It's not detachment, it's evolution. He no longer needs to explain his silence or justify his decisions. He just moves with precision, unshaken by chaos, untouched by manipulation. Because he's learned the hardest truth of all, that trusting logic after emotion betrayed him. Isn't losing his heart, it's finally protecting it. He uses emotional control as a shield, not a weapon. There's a quiet kind of strength in a Sigma male, the kind that doesn't roar, doesn't fight to be understood, and doesn't chase validation. It's the strength of someone who has learned that emotional control isn't about domination, it's about defense. Once upon a time, he reacted. He argued, he explained. He wanted people to see his intentions, to understand that his silence came from peace, not pride. But the world doesn't always value calm. It mistakes it for weakness. And so, the Sigma learned to build something unshakable. Control. He doesn't use that control to manipulate others or prove superiority. He uses it to protect himself from being drained, provoked, or emotionally hijacked. When people throw chaos at him, he doesn't return fire. He disarms them with composure. His calm unsettles manipulators because it starves their need for reaction. Every time someone tries to push his buttons and gets nothing in return, they realize they've lost their power. This control wasn't born from arrogance. It was born from exhaustion. After years of giving his energy to emotional storms that never brought peace, he realized that reacting doesn't solve anything. It only feeds the noise. So now he observes. He measures before he moves. He lets silence speak louder than defense. His face stays still when others expect rage. His voice remains level when they want to see him break. Because he knows that whoever controls emotion controls the outcome. And yet, inside that restraint lies empathy, not coldness. He understands emotions deeply, but he chooses not to weaponize them. He knows how fragile the human mind can be, how easy it is to destroy someone with words. So, instead of using emotion to control others, he uses control to protect emotion itself, to keep his heart from becoming what once hurt him. That's the paradox of the Sigma's strength. People think his calm is indifference, when in truth, it's mastery. His shield isn't made of steel, it's made of discipline. He doesn't need to win arguments or prove dominance. His victory is in his peace, because emotional control for him isn't a weapon to destroy others, it's armor that ensures no one ever destroys him again. He questions every feeling before he lets it guide him. The Sigma male doesn't rush to trust his emotions. Not anymore. Once, he believed that every feeling was truth, that love meant safety, that intuition meant alignment. But experience has a way of sharpening perception. After being burned by what felt right, he learned to pause, to study every emotion that rises before it takes control. He doesn't reject what he feels. He interrogates it. Every spark of anger, every wave of attachment, every surge of affection, it all gets filtered through logic before he lets it move him. That's what separates him from the emotional chaos of the world. Where others react instantly, the Sigma reflects. He asks, is this real or is this a reaction? Is it truth or just ego in disguise? Am I feeling this because I want to or because I've been conditioned to? This inner dialogue is constant, invisible, and deeply personal. It's not detachment, it's awareness, because he knows that feelings can lie, that the heart can be impulsive, and that emotions can lead a man straight into manipulation if left unchecked. He's not cold, he's calculated. He observes his emotions like a scientist studying fire, fascinated by its warmth, cautious of its destruction. He knows when to let it burn and when to contain it. This self-awareness gives him power that few understand. When others are ruled by temporary emotions, he moves with precision, never saying words he'll regret, never acting out of desperation. But make no mistake, this level of control came at a cost. It was born from heartbreak, betrayal, and disappointment, moments when emotion clouded his judgment and left him questioning everything. From that pain, he built his balance. He realized that strength isn't the absence of emotion, but the ability to understand it before it commands you. So now, every decision he makes, every person he lets in, every battle he fights, every silence he keeps is guided not just by what he feels, but by what he knows. Because the Sigma doesn't suppress emotion, he refines it. He listens to it, learns from it, and only acts when feeling and logic align perfectly. That's his secret weapon, a heart that feels deeply and a mind strong enough to decide what deserves to lead. He turns overthinking into strategy, not self-sabotage. Most people drown in their thoughts. The Sigma male builds a fortress out of his. What used to be overthinking, that endless loop of analysis, replaying moments, dissecting motives, he has turned into a quiet, surgical kind of awareness. He no longer sees his mind as an enemy, but as a finely tuned instrument. Every scenario, every possibility, every emotional cue becomes data. Where others spiral, he strategizes. Where most get lost in what-ifs, he finds direction. There was a time when his thoughts consumed him, when late nights meant replaying conversations and questioning his worth. But through pain, he learned the difference between thinking and strategic observation. He stopped overanalyzing people to please them and started analyzing them to understand them. Every silence, every hesitation, every inconsistency, he notices it all. The difference is he no longer reacts emotionally to what he sees. He plans around it. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It came from exhaustion, from being misunderstood for his quietness and judged for his depth. But the Sigma realized that his so-called overthinking was actually a gift, a kind of hyper-awareness that most people don't have the discipline to control. Once he learned to channel it, his mind became his greatest weapon. Instead of questioning his every move, he began to anticipate others. Instead of getting stuck in regret, he studied patterns. What led to failure? What led to betrayal? What led to growth? Now, he moves differently. He doesn't rush decisions or chase instant answers. He plays the long game. Emotionally, financially, spiritually, every silence is intentional, every word precise. People mistake his stillness for indecision, but it's actually calculation. He's mapping outcomes, not emotions. He's mastering timing, the most underrated form of intelligence. What once looked like anxiety has evolved into intuition. The Sigma no longer fears his thoughts. He trusts them. They're not random noise anymore. They're signals, guides, blueprints. Because when you learn to discipline your mind instead of running from it, you stop being overwhelmed by possibilities and start creating them. That's his quiet genius. He turned overthinking, the thing that once broke him, into the mindset that now makes him untouchable. You repress passion until it becomes purpose. The Sigma male is not passionless. He's disciplined. He feels intensity in ways most people couldn't handle, but he refuses to let that fire control him. Instead, he locks it away, refines it, and turns it into something sharper, purpose. What others waste in bursts of emotion, he channels into focus. To outsiders, this looks like coldness, but it's actually restraint, the kind that takes years to master. There was a time when he gave in to passion recklessly, chasing people, projects, or emotions that burned bright but left ashes behind. Each failure taught him that passion without direction is just chaos disguised as ambition. So he learned to delay gratification. He taught himself to hold back what others rush to release. Every desire, every spark of motivation, every burst of anger, he lets it simmer in silence until it becomes fuel he can control. This self-mastery is what separates him from the impulsive and the loud. He's not emotionless, he's patient. While the world reacts, he waits. While others express, he builds. He doesn't speak of dreams, he engineers them. Every goal he sets comes from that quiet internal furnace of controlled passion. The kind that never fades because it's never wasted. That's why when a Sigma moves, it feels deliberate. He doesn't chase approval or excitement. He pursues precision. His calm presence hides storms of ambition beneath the surface. And only when his timing is perfect does he unleash that energy. Through achievement, mastery, or transformation. People who mistake his restraint for indifference never understand that his passion never died. It evolved. It stopped demanding attention and started demanding results. He learned that real power doesn't scream, it acts. Real passion doesn't burn out, it sustains. So when he represses passion, it isn't suppression, it's evolution. He knows how to let it mature, to guide it from impulse into intention, from emotion into execution. Because the Sigma male's greatest strength is not how fiercely he feels, but how precisely he directs that fire. In a world of chaos and noise, his quiet, calculated purpose burns the brightest. And it never goes out. He battles between connection and self-preservation. Inside every Sigma male, there's a quiet war, a tug-of-war between the need to connect and the instinct to protect. He feels the pull of closeness like any other human being, but every time he gets too near, his mind reminds him of the cost. Connection, to him, has never been simple. It's always come with conditions, expectations, disappointments, or emotional traps that demanded more than he could give. So he learned to love with caution, to care with awareness, to give without losing himself. This conflict isn't coldness, it's survival. The Sigma's independence wasn't built from arrogance, but from scars. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every time his vulnerability was used against him, it taught him that solitude was safer than surrender. He doesn't avoid people because he dislikes them. He distances himself because peace is rarer than company. Yet beneath that composure, there's still a man who craves understanding, who longs for someone who doesn't demand explanations for his silence. In moments of connection, he feels everything, the warmth, the spark, the potential. But then instinct whispers, don't lose yourself again. He's seen how easy it is for emotions to blur judgment, for affection to turn into obligation. So he stays at the edge, close enough to feel, distant enough to stay in control. To others, it looks like detachment. In truth, it's a balancing act between vulnerability and self-respect. This battle defines his strength. While most chase connection at any cost, the Sigma weighs it against his peace. He understands that not every bond deserves access to his inner world. His self-preservation isn't fear, it's discernment. He knows what it's like to give too much, to be drained by people who never intended to understand him. That's why now, when he connects, it's intentional, genuine. Oh yes, he battles between the pull of emotion and the promise of solitude. But when he chooses distance, it's not rejection, it's wisdom. Because the Sigma male doesn't build walls, he builds gates and only opens them for those who bring peace, not chaos. And until that presence appears, he remains his own sanctuary, calm, focused, and untouchably whole. He learns that detachment isn't peace, it's survival. For most people, detachment sounds like serenity, like a man who has found his center and nothing can shake it. But for the Sigma male, detachment isn't born from peace. It's born from pain. It's the product of too many disappointments, too many betrayals, too many moments when caring cost him more than silence ever did. What looks like calm from the outside is actually armor, built slowly, layer by layer, from every time his trust was broken. He didn't choose detachment because he wanted to be cold. He chose it because it was the only way to stay sane. There was a time when he gave too much of himself, his loyalty, his energy, his empathy, and every time it was misunderstood as weakness. So he learned. He learned that being emotionally available in a world addicted to self-interest was a liability. He stopped trying to prove his intentions and instead started protecting them. Now, detachment is not the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of it. He still cares, but quietly. He still observes, but without interference. He still feels deeply, but he doesn't act on impulse. His peace isn't found in denying emotions, it's found in controlling them. Because for him, survival doesn't mean isolation, it means precision. He no longer wastes energy convincing, explaining, or defending. He saves it for building, for creating, for evolving. People call him emotionless, but they're wrong. He feels everything, just not for everyone. His detachment is a filter, not a wall. It separates what deserves his focus from what drains it. And once you understand that kind of strength, you stop chasing validation altogether. For the Sigma male, detachment became his turning point, the moment he stopped bleeding for things that never deserved his blood. It's not peace in the spiritual sense. It's peace in the strategic sense, the kind that comes when you finally stop letting the world dictate your emotional weather. Because in a world full of chaos, the man who can stay detached isn't avoiding life. He's mastering it. His silence isn't distance. It's dominant. He finally unites logic and emotion into power, not conflict. It takes most people a lifetime to realize that logic and emotion aren't enemies. They're allies. For the Sigma male, that realization comes after years of inner conflict. He spent half his life trying to silence one to protect the other. Logic kept him from breaking. Emotion kept him human. But somewhere along the journey, he learned that true power lies in balance. When the mind and the heart stop competing and start collaborating. He remembers the days when emotion ruled his decisions, when passion made him reckless, when attachment clouded his judgment. Then came the opposite phase. Cold logic, rigid plans, detachment that left him efficient but empty. Neither extreme gave him peace. One burned him out, the other froze him. So he built something in between, a new version of himself, one that could feel deeply but think clearly. Now, when he faces conflict, he doesn't rush to react. He pauses. He feels the emotion, acknowledges it, but doesn't let it drive him blindly. He analyzes it like data, but still respects the story behind it. That's the Sigma's quiet genius. He doesn't suppress emotion. He translates it into wisdom. His logic sharpens his empathy, and his empathy softens his logic. It's a combination that makes him unpredictable, because he can be both calm and passionate, rational and intuitive, strategic and human. This union changes everything. His decisions become deliberate but inspired. His strength becomes balanced, precise, not cold. He learns that emotion gives direction to logic, and logic gives structure to emotion. Together, they form a kind of intelligence that can't be faked, a rare blend of awareness, discipline, and quiet power. By uniting both forces, the Sigma male transcends survival. He stops reacting to life and starts mastering it. He no longer chooses between being the thinker or the feeler. He becomes both. And that's what makes him unstoppable. Because a man who can control his logic and understand his emotions doesn't just walk through life, he commands it. When a Sigma male reaches this level of internal mastery, where logic and emotion work together instead of tearing each other apart, he becomes untouchable. He no longer seeks control over others. He commands control over himself. That's the rare kind of strength people feel but can't define. Calm on the surface, unshakable underneath. This is the final evolution of the Sigma mindset. When clarity replaces confusion, when peace replaces chaos, and when intelligence and emotion merge into something powerful, balanced, and deeply human. He doesn't need to prove his strength anymore. He embodies it. If this resonated with you, remember, true power begins when you stop fighting yourself. Subscribe to Ultra Wise for more deep psychology and masculine philosophy that helps you master both your emotions and your mind. And tell me in the comments, do you lead more with logic or with emotion?